was 22 years old the summer I took the job at Great Smoky Mountains National Park. It was supposed to be temporary, just a few months working as a seasonal ranger before I figured out what I actually wanted to do with my life. I ended up assigned to one of the fire watch towers. There were 4 of us spread out across the park, each stationed in our own tower miles apart, connected only by radio. My post was the northernmost tower, overlooking a long stretch of river and a few campgrounds that saw steady traffic throughout the summer. It was quiet work, long days of scanning tree lines, logging weather patterns, and making routine reports. The first couple of weeks went by exactly how you'd expect. It was peaceful and predictable, almost boring. I'd wake up early, make coffee, do my rounds, and spend most of the day watching the forest breathe. You start to notice small things after a while. The way the wind moves differently through certain parts of the trees, how animal sounds change depending on the time of the day. It all becomes familiar. That's why what happened that Friday night stuck with me. I had just signed off for the night, maybe around 11:30. I remember laying in bed inside the tower, staring at the ceiling, listening to the usual sounds outside, the distant river, the insects, and the occasional rustling in the brush. Then I heard it. A scream. But not like anything I had ever heard before. It was distant, echoing through the trees, but there was something wrong with it. It didn't sound human. It almost tried to, but there was this distorted edge to it, like it didn't quite know how. I shot up in bed immediately, wide awake. For a second I just sat there, listening, hoping maybe I misheard it. Then it came again, louder this time. My stomach dropped. I rushed out of the tower and onto the wraparound balcony, gripping the railing as I scanned the darkness. The forest stretched out endlessly in front of me, nothing but shadows layered on top of each other. I looked toward the river, then the campgrounds, completely still. There were no lights or movement. I stood there for a few seconds longer before heading back inside. I grabbed my radio, flipping it on, about to call out, when a voice crackled through first. Did anyone else hear that? It was Jake. He was stationed in a tower about 10 miles south of me. I grabbed the radio. Yeah, I heard it. Sounded further out from my end. Where are you at? He told me it sounded close to him. I told him that I was heading his way, and for him to stay put. I didn't wait for a response. I threw on my uniform, grabbed my flashlight and radio, and rushed down the tower stairs toward my truck. I fired up the engine and started down the trail towards Jake's position. The drive was tense. The headlights cut through the trees, lighting up narrow sections of forest before swallowing them back into darkness as I passed. About 2/3 of the way there, I heard it again. This time it wasn't distant. It was close. I slammed on the brakes, the truck skidding slightly on the dirt road. I rolled the window down and leaned out, listening. The forest had gone completely silent. There were no insects, there was no wind. There was nothing, just that heavy, suffocating quiet. Then my radio crackled, making me flinch. It was Jake, telling me that he could see my headlights, and he was near me. I didn't respond right away. I just kept scanning the tree line, feeling like something was watching me from beyond where the headlights reached. A minute later, Jake's truck came into view. We both pulled off the trail and got out at the same time, meeting between the vehicles. I could see it on his face immediately. He looked just as unsettled as I felt. He asked if I heard that. Before I could respond, we both heard it. A crunch off to our left. We snapped our flashlights on at the same time, beams cutting through the trees. The light barely penetrated more than a few yards, illuminating trunks and branches that twisted into strange shapes in the dark. Jake stepped forward slightly, calling out hello. His voice echoed and then disappeared, without a response. I swallowed, forcing some logic into the situation. I told him that maybe it was a hiker that got lost or hurt or something. Jake looked back at me, and I could tell he didn't believe that. We started moving into the trees anyway, slow and cautious, every step crunching under our boots louder than it should have been. Then it happened. That scream again, right in front of us. It was louder than anything I've ever heard. It hit like a shockwave, freezing both of us in place. And then something moved. From behind a tree, maybe 20 yards ahead, a figure stepped out into view. At first, my brain couldn't process what I was looking at. It was tall. Its limbs were long and thin, almost wrong in the way they bent. And its eyes, when our flashlights hit them, they reflected back at us, glowing faintly in the darkness. We didn't move. The thing just stood there, staring. Then, in a voice that sounded off, like it was being forced through something that didn't understand how to use it, it spoke. "Help me. I'm lost." The words were human, but the way they came out wasn't. It sounded like a bad imitation, like something had heard a person say it once and was trying to repeat it. A cold rush went through my entire body. I grabbed Jake's arm. I told him that we needed to go. We turned and ran, branches whipping at us as we sprinted back toward the trucks, not daring to look behind us. I could hear something moving in the trees off to the left side, keeping pace. We didn't split up. We both jumped into my truck, slamming the doors shut behind us. I turned the key and threw the truck into drive before the engine fully turned over, and I floored it down the trail. Neither of us said a word. We were both breathing hard, trying to process what we had just seen. I didn't stop until we reached my tower. We got out quickly, both scanning the tree line, expecting to see something standing there, watching us. But there was nothing. We rushed up the stairs, practically tripping over each other. As we got inside, I slammed the door shut and locked it, turning to Jake. I asked him what the hell that was. He just shook his head. We stayed up the rest of the night, taking turns watching the tree line, radios on, lights off. Neither of us even considered sleeping. Nothing else happened. There were no sounds or movement, just the slow return of normal forest noise as morning crept in. When the sun finally came up, it felt like we could breathe again. I offered to drive Jake back to his truck. Neither of us really wanted to go back out there, but leaving it didn't feel right either. When we pulled up to where we had parked, that same uneasy feeling hit me again. Before Jake left, I said we should check the spot where we saw it. At first, he hesitated, but then he agreed. We both slowly moved back toward the tree line, daylight doing little to make the place feel normal again. Every step felt wrong, like we weren't supposed to be there. Then we saw it, the same tree the creature stepped out from behind. There was a knot near the base that made it unmistakable. We approached it carefully, both of us silent. And when we stepped behind it, we stopped. In the dirt, right at the base of the tree, were two prints, hoof prints. They were deep and clear, but that was it. There was no trail leading in, no trail leading out, just two prints, as if something had been standing there, and then vanished. We didn't say much after that. We went back to our trucks and drove off without looking back. I finished out the rest of that summer in the tower. I never saw the creature again, nor did I hear it scream. Jake didn't either, as far as I know. But even now, years later, anytime I'm out in the woods and things get a little too quiet, I think about that voice and how I knew without a doubt whatever said it didn't need help at all. I was 24 years old when I took a seasonal job out in Olympic National Park. It was late fall, right as the steady rains started rolling in off the Pacific, turning the forest into something dense, dark, and constantly soaked. I had worked parks before, so I thought I knew what to expect. Long shifts, quiet trails, the occasional lost hiker. What I didn't expect was how different the forest feels when it rains for days without stopping. It doesn't just get wet, it changes. The sound of rain fills in every gap, every silence, until you can't hear anything else. It becomes this constant noise that drowns out your sense of distance. Something could be 10 yards away or 50, and you wouldn't know the difference. That night, the rain had been coming down hard for hours. I was assigned to patrol a stretch of trail near one of the more remote campgrounds. Most of the campers had already cleared out earlier in the day because of the weather, but we still had to do routine checks, make sure no one was stuck out there, no flooded sections of trail, nothing out of place. I remember stepping out of my truck and pulling my jacket on tight, immediately getting hit with the sound of rain hammering the canopy above me. It was loud. My flashlight beam barely cut through the mist as I started down the trail. Water dripped from every branch, pooling into the path and turning the ground into soft mud that sucked at my boots with every step. About 10 minutes in, I noticed something. The campground should have been empty, but there was a light on. It was faint and flickering in the distance, coming from one of the sites deeper in. I slowed down, angling my flashlight toward it. Through the rain and the trees, I could just make out the glow of what looked like a lantern. I thought to myself that wasn't right. We had cleared this area earlier. Everyone was supposed to be gone. I clicked on my radio and radioed back to the base that I saw a light. A voice came through, faint under the rain, and told me that it might be a late camper and that I should go ahead and check it out. Something about that answer didn't sit right with me, but I kept moving. The closer I got, the quieter the rain seemed. Not because it actually stopped, but because something else was replacing it. A sound. It was soft and rhythmic, like someone breathing. I stopped walking and just listened. The rain filled my ears again. Then there was a slow inhale, followed by a long, dragging exhale, coming from somewhere ahead. I tightened my grip on the flashlight and moved forward more cautiously now, my beam locked onto the campsite. The lantern was sitting on the ground, casting a weak yellow glow over the clearing, but there was no tent or gear or any person in the area, just the lantern sitting there flickering. I stepped into the clearing, scanned around me and called out hello, but there was no response, just rain and that same breathing, but it was closer now, right on the edge of the clearing. I turned my light toward the trees, and at first I didn't see anything. Then something shifted, just slightly. There was a shape standing between two trees. My stomach dropped. I raised the flashlight higher, the beam landing directly onto it. And that's when I realized it wasn't facing me before. It was facing away. And as the light hit it, it turned slowly. Its movement was wrong. It wasn't smooth, almost like each part of it followed the other a second too late. Its face, or what I thought was its face, was pale, washed out in the light. Its eyes reflected back at me, but not like an animal's. There was no life in them, just reflection. I couldn't move. The rain felt distant now, almost muted. The thing took a step forward. Its foot sank into the mud with a wet, heavy sound. Then another, and as it moved closer, I heard it. Not breathing, mimicking breathing, like it was copying the sound without understanding it. A cold wave ran through me, and I shouted out, telling whatever this was to stop. But it didn't. It kept coming, slow and deliberate. Then it stopped, and it spoke to me. Hello. Its voice was wrong. It was flat, like it had been recorded and played back. I stumbled backward, my boot slipping slightly in the mud. Whatever this thing was tilted its head, just slightly, then took another step forward. That was enough for me. I turned and ran. Branches snapped under my feet as I bolted back down the trail, my flashlight beam bouncing wildly. The rain swallowed everything, but I could hear it behind me now. It wasn't running, it was walking. It was keeping pace with me. I didn't look back. I just kept moving until I saw the faint outline of my truck through the trees. I yanked the door open, practically diving inside, slamming it shut behind me. My hands were shaking as I jammed the key into the ignition. The engine turned over. For a second, I just sat there, breathing hard, staring out into the rain. Then something moved in front of the headlights. I froze. This thing stepped into view, standing just beyond the hood of my truck. The rain rolled off of it, but it didn't react to it. It didn't blink or move. It just stood there, staring at me. Then, slowly, it raised one arm and waved. The motion was stiff and unnatural, like it had seen someone do it once and was trying to recreate it. I threw the truck into reverse and hit the gas. The tires spun in the mud before catching. I backed up just enough to swing the wheel and then slammed it into drive, speeding down the access road without looking back. I didn't stop until I reached the ranger station. I reported everything. They went out the next morning to check the site, but there was no lantern, no footprints, not even a sign that anyone had ever been there. I finished my contract a few weeks later and left. I've spent time in a lot of forests since then, but I've never gone back to that one. Because every time I hear rain hit the trees, I swear I can still hear it underneath. That slow, uneven breathing.